What's up, guys? Welcome to Demo with Mo. I'm your host, Monique Simmons. We'll be discussing dating, engaged, and married objectives from a young Christian's perspective. Are you guys ready? Let's dive in. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to a new episode of Demo with Mo. I am your host, Monique Simmons. This is week 2 of our Mother's Day series. And this week, I have invited special guest Alexis Thomas. And a funny story to the podcast episode. I actually did the introduction during the podcast episode, but in the middle of us recording, there was a bad storm in our area and internet service went out and you couldn't hear any of it. So in the midst of not even realizing the recording went out, the introduction is gone. So I had to go back and do the introduction all over again. But I wanted you guys to know a little bit about Miss Alexis Thomas. I was so excited to bring her back on the podcast. She was one of our panelists on a relationship panel episode back on last season of the podcast. If you have not heard that podcast episode, I encourage you to go check that out. We had a part 1 and part 2, but it was such a dope episode. We had so many positive remarks and comments on that episode, and she was one of the favorite panelists and her perspective about relationships from that podcast episode. So Miss Alexis Thomas, she's a mom of 5, ages 7 and under. She runs an online home decor company called Four and Company. She's a huge nerd, anything politics, science, English related. She's definitely down for it. Over the years, thanks to the kids, she's become a huge DIY connoisseur. And she enjoys being a mom and doing life with her tribe. You guys, I enjoyed this interview so much. Every once in a while, I bring on a guest and I'm in the middle of an interview and I know just in the midst of having a conversation that this interview, this podcast episode is going to bless so many tremendously. And my conversation with Alexis is one of those conversations. It's going to bless and touch so many, including myself. She fed my soul. Our conversation, it touched me in so many places. It was just what I needed, and I didn't even know I needed it. I hope it encourages you the way it encouraged me. I hope it blesses you the way that it blessed me. And I hope that it finds you and gives you exactly what you may need, wherever you are on your journey, wherever you may be on your walk, with your relationship with your mom, as we get ready to celebrate and honor our mothers on this Mother's Day. Because if you're listening to this podcast episode live when it comes out, you know that we're getting ready to come into Mother's Day weekend. And I know for some, this is such an exciting, beautiful time where you get to celebrate with your mom and love on your mom and honor your mom and celebrate this beautiful woman who gave you life, who brought you into this world, who did so much for you. And for some, this is a sad time because your mom may not be in this world anymore and you miss her so much and you would do anything to have her back in your life. And all you have now is the memories that you guys once shared together. And for those others, your mom may still be here, but that relationship may be broken. You guys may not be speaking right now. The relationship may be strained for whatever reason. There could be various reasons of why you guys are not talking. There may be unforgiveness. There may be a lack of accountability. There may be hurt. There may be pain. There could be so many things, but that's a hard place to be in. And I feel your pain. I've been where you are. I've cried those tears. My heart has been broken. I see you. In this episode, today's episode is for you. I really hope you enjoy Alexis and I's conversation on today. So I won't hold you any longer. Let's dive in. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to a new episode of Demo with Mo. I am your host, Monique Simmons, and this is another episode on a continuation of the Mother's Day series. The whole month of May, we are going to be talking about different relationships that we have with our mothers, and that could be with our moms, our biological moms, our adoptive moms, our step moms, our bonus moms, our mom-in-laws. There's so many various relationships that we have with our moms. So I just wanted to make sure that we touch on all of those different relationships for the whole month of May so that no one is left out. So today it's going to be no different. And I've invited a special guest to join me on this conversation. And on today, we're going to be talking about how we may have broken relationships with our moms and how we can try to restore those relationships and fix those relationships and make them better, because that's our hope. That's our desire. That's something that we want to do, but that we don't want to keep those relationships broken. And I'm going to be completely honest. Sometimes we can't fix those relationships because that's something that both parties involved have to want. Sometimes we can't restore those relationships. Sometimes those relationships won't be fixed, but that doesn't mean that we can't try. So on today, I have invited Miss Alexis Thomas to join me so we can discuss ways that we can try to restore and fix those relationships. Alexis, thank you so much for joining me on today.
Thank you so much for having me again. I'm happy to be back.
Excited. And girl, I've been waiting. I should have been told you this, but I was waiting to have you back to tell you. But for my audience, I don't know if you guys remember, but Alexis was one of our guests for the relationship panel. And I had multiple people reach out to me about you being on the relationship panel. They said that you were one of their favorite people on the panel. They loved your perspective on relationships.
Oh, I appreciate that. If you ever do another one, girl, I'm down for it.
Okay, so we're going to jump right in. My first question is, growing up, what was your relationship with your mom like?
So it was a little estranged, not intentionally, but when I was a kid, my mom had a really bad heroin addiction. It lasted only a few years, but it lasted long enough where it, kind of affected everyone. So I ended up not really being a kid for a while and being more like a caregiver. So it was a little codependent because it was my sister and I, and she decided she wanted to go and live with our grandmother instead while everything was going on, while we were living in White Rock apartment. And I was like, no, I'm not leaving my mom. That's my mom. So initially it was a really, I don't want to call it unhealthy, but the older I got, I realized it kind of was a really unhealthy, codependent relationship.
Got you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like for you? How did that feel? And because you said it wasn't your entire childhood, if you could remember, what age did that kind of start when it first began, when you kind of first noticed that there was an issue or things began to change? What age were you?
Like 10. I was coming out of Gen Smith, coming out of 5th grade. That was my third. I had to make sure I'm not telling the story. That was my third elementary school that I had been to, but I actually got to stay at that one. So about 5th grade to like just towards the end of like 7th, 8th grade, when it was like the starting and the ending. It was like other stuff in between that occurred, but the drug addiction problem happened during that time frame.
What was that like for you? And that's why I asked you that age, because that's a very important piece for me, because that middle school age, that's very pivotal for a child, no matter what we're going through. Even if we're not even going through anything, that's just a pivotal age for a child. What was that like for you? Did you have people around you that you could share this with, or did you kind of keep it a secret? What share a little bit what that was like.
It was lonely. I guess that's the best way to put it. And it was a little embarrassing. So outside of family who actually knew what was going on, nobody else knew. And I kind of preferred to keep it that way. I think the only person that I ever even let in on just a tidbit was my childhood best friend at the time. And she knew like bits and pieces, but not like the fullness of the situation. But I just didn't really want to talk about it because, nobody wants to come to school and be like, I had to go home and make my own breakfast, dinner, and such and such today. That's not something you really want to tell people because you see other people pull up with their parents with these, what you are assuming face value-wise are great relationships. And even though my mom and I weren't at odds, she just wasn't herself either. So it was uncomfortable to say the least.
Let me ask you this. What do you know today about your mom? Because as a child, we can see what we're going through or what we're experiencing, but we really only see it from our perspective as a child. Something's going on with my mom. She's different. I'm having to go home and cook for myself, fend for myself, take care of myself. We see it just only from our perspective. But now as an adult, we begin to see things a little better. So what do you know today about your mom that you wish you would have known back then?
That she had a lot of childhood trauma and demons of her own that she was dealing with. She had a lot of, childhood trauma and undealt with demons that she was dealing with herself. There's a lot of stuff in our family that during her childhood with her 5 siblings were swept under the rug. So from like abuse to molestation, unplanned pregnancies, it was just a lot. Seeing, unhealthy relationships in the home. So that kind of determined who she also had around, myself and my sister. She just had a lot that she was recovering from. And at the time she was doing the best she could and recovering as best she could. And as a kid, you don't see it that way because you're kind of like, girl, you my mama. Like, what's up? What's going on? But looking at it now from things that have transpired in my own life and just sitting down and having to find forgiveness for stuff that she can't really say sorry for because she was still kind of learning it as she went herself. Just that she had a lot on her shoulders and very little help with carrying it, and she just kind of broke.
That's good. If you could change one thing about you and your mom's relationship, what would it be?
I would change the fact that it took me to being an adult, like with children of my own, to really speak my mind and correct her. Not in a disrespectful way, but I know like with the millennial generations, we're dealing with old heads who like, well, because I'm grown or because I've already been through X, Y, and Z, or because I said so, or because I'm your elder, this is how this is supposed to go. And it's like, no, I'm grown with my own thoughts, my own experiences, my own ideas, my own perceptions of how motherhood should go. And I appreciate the advice, but no. And it took me a long time to learn how to tell her no and it not come off as disrespectful. So I think that'd probably be the biggest thing I could change is learning how to put her in her place as opposed to just shutting up and going with whatever she was saying to go with and being like, look, lady, not lady, but, look, Mom, I love you and I appreciate your advice, but that's not how I'm going to do stuff. And it wasn't until I had the twins, actually, that I finally just kind of put my foot down. I was like, okay, I love you, but look, listen, we need to have a conversation.
What you're saying right now is so good. And this makes me want to ask you this, because this wasn't even a part of my questions, but what you're saying is so good. And I think a lot of people have this issue, and it's not even just mom and child issue. I think this is a parent and adult child issue, period.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think it's so hard to transition? Because I think a lot of times we have a problem with transitioning from being parent and child. Like when you leave your parents' home, we don't know how to transition from that dynamic of being a child in a parent's home, where your parents kind of dictated your life. They, you listened to them. You had to respect them. You had to go by what they said. That's just the way it was. You had to, when you were in their house, you had to do things the way they said to do them as a child. But once you become an adult, that dynamic, that role has to change. It has to transition. It's not so much as parent child now. You guys are both two adults. Even though they are still your parent, you respect them. We're now both two adults. I don't have to listen to you. You don't dictate my life. You can offer your advice. You can give your perspective, but I can do what I want to do. Why do you think that transition is so hard? And I think it's hard for both parties, the parent and the child, because I love how you said it took you a long time to finally put your foot down, basically to set boundaries with your mom. Like, this is, I want to raise my children the way I want to raise my children because I'm their mom now. Why do you think that transition is so hard for us?
Honestly, because we're just taught at the womb, this is your mom or dad, or these are your parents. This is what they say. This is what goes. And if you have the issue with it, you can move out and get on down. And a lot of us weren't in a position to move out and get on down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then just for my household, it was always like respect your mom, you respect your parents. What they say goes. They only mean the best for you. It's okay for them to have an opinion. They're trying to guide you in the right way, kind of thing. But it was more like a over obsessive type situation where it was like, okay, you did your homework, cool. Well, let's do these 15 extra such and such to make sure your score is here. Or, okay, well, I told you, you couldn't go out for blah, 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 but you saying you want to go anyway because you did this many chores or that many chores. And then it was the lack of not being able to have an opinion, not in a way where it was like, oh, I can't pick out what I want to wear, or I can't pick out, my prom dress on my own. Nothing like that, but more on the lines of this family member or this person you're dating or this situation makes me uncomfortable, and you kind of want me to deal with it anyway because you had to deal with it anyway, and I don't want to do that. So it was like, okay, well, this is my house. These are my rules. And if you feel that way, then, you can get out. And for a little while, I did. I can't remember what her and I had gotten into an argument about. I think it was about cleaning my room. And she's like, if you don't clean your room, this was like high school too. She's like, if you don't clean your room, I'll pack all this stuff up and you got to go. Okay. So I cleaned it, but not in its entirety because I still had like soccer practice, debate. High school was a lot of extracurricular activities for me. So I did kind of fall behind. I came home one day, she had packed my stuff up in this big, tall, like refrigerator size box. And I took out what I could. And I went and stayed a few nights at my friend Ariel's house. Her mom had let me come and stay. And my mom had reached out to them and basically made it seem like I was mad and upset because I couldn't do what I wanted to do, which is why she packed my stuff up when that wasn't the case. So I was kind of upset because you just made it out to these people that have known me literally most of my life like I'm lying when I know the conversation we just had. So it was ghetto, girl. It was ghetto.
Okay, let me ask you this. What have you learned from your mom, whether about something she said or something she did?
The biggest thing I've learned from my mom, if nothing else, is especially when you have children, at the end of the day, no matter what you're going through, how you feel, how depressed or off your day might be, how broken you might be about something else and be in the process of healing from, even if it's just while the kids are around, you have to pull it together and push through it because they don't need to see you upset or, depressed, sad, and they don't need to know your storm, which in our situation, I knew what was going on with her because I was there presently with it, with the drug use, the abusive boyfriends, the abusive, husbands, and so on. So from her, I've definitely learned that I shouldn't allow my storm to get my children wet.
This is a perfect segue, what you just said, to our next question. In what ways are you raising your children differently from how you were raised, and in what ways the same?
Okay, I'll start with the ways that are the same because it's not a lot that are the same. So, same wise, I do believe in timeout. I do believe in, spare the rod for the child. I don't just like tear them up, but, a little tap, tap here and there, timeout for, doing stuff is not okay. I do now practice if you don't eat what I cook, you'll go to bed hungry. But it's not something I really have to put my foot down a lot about now. It's just that when I first became a parent, I was so intent on making sure that they didn't grow up from a childhood that they had to recover from, that whatever I could do to appease them, I did. So it got to the point where when I was cooking dinner, breakfast, lunch, snack, whatever, I'm making 3, 4, 5 different meals because I'm not putting my foot down with them and telling them, hey, this is what we're eating today. If you don't eat it, baby, I'm sorry. You're just going to be hungry. And so now that I've implemented that, it's definitely cut my grocery bill in half. So thank God for that. But it's also kind of shown them, okay, mama says if I don't eat this, I'm going to be hungry. So now it's more like, oh, yeah, give me some more green beans. Yeah, give me some more chicken. Give me some more broccoli as opposed to a table full of, I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want that. So those two things I definitely took from her. Now, the difference is I don't mind my children asking me why. For a long time, we saw kind of different on that because, asking why apparently is disrespectful. But I don't mind it because I know my children don't mean it in a disrespectful way. Children are curious. Yeah. They're getting used to the world just like we are. They're growing up and learning to experience emotions and feelings and thoughts that they've never, encountered before. They're literally kids. You know what I mean? Yeah. Why I might not be upset that, Bella ate the last cherry popsicle for Aaron, that might be the end of the world. So I have to be, kind of understanding to that because when I was 2, my sister eating the last gummy bear was the end of the world, for me. So I allow them to ask why in certain situations so that they can get a better understanding of why the behavior is incorrect or why I chose to do the opposite of whatever it is they thought I was going to do. I also follow a really strict routine, but it's just to keep them regular. They get up at the same time every morning. It's breakfast close to the same time every morning. Snack time on the weekends when they're home. Lunch, dinner, playtime, etc. And it's not because I want them to be like dull, boring, sheltered children. It's just that keeping them on a routine keeps me on a routine. Because when I'm not on a routine with them, and it's kind of like, okay, I know bedtime's at 8 o'clock. Y'all can go at 9:30 today. But then when it's time to get up at 5 because the bus comes at 6, you don't want to get up. So it throws the whole morning off because now you woke up late. Everything else is running late. I got to put you in the car ride line. Now I'm late for work. So really their schedule is just to keep the household flowing properly. Yeah. Other than that, we do a lot of traveling, which we really didn't do that when I was a kid. Like we would go the park and stuff like that. But anywhere I try to take myself, I try to make sure my children also experience it as well, because I don't want them to grow up like I did and go like to Miami and go, oh my God, I've never seen, sand before. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I try to introduce to them luxuries that I didn't have and just give them, a better life than what I had. And I think that's what any parent wants for their children. And I complain about them being spoiled now, but it also kind of makes me smile because I know I'm providing what I said I wanted to for my children.
Yeah. I love all of those. I really do. I love those. Okay. So you hear people speak often about parents having favorite children.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up, did you ever feel this way? Because I know it was just you and your sister. Did you ever feel like your mom had a favorite child?
So, younger me, yes. Because even when my mom remarried, I knew my step siblings needed like extra loving because their dad was a butt. So that never bothered me. But like with my sister and I, yes. But when I got older, I had to also kind of realize it was because she wasn't around. So the things that I experienced with my mom, she didn't, because she was staying with our grandparents. So, of course, when she comes around, I feel like she might get her way more, or she might get to do more than what I got to do. But I also had to realize when I got older that my mom was probably making up for lost time.
Yeah.
So I guess I don't even look at it as a favorite anymore. It's just that she was making up for, lost time. And I can't really be upset about that. As a kid, I was like, I'm yours too. What's going on? But as I got older, I just realized she just was making up for lost time. And I can't really blame her for that.
That's a good perspective to have. What's the age difference between you and your sister?
So I just turned 35 and my sister's 41. So we're like 6.5 years apart, because she'll be turning 42 this year. Sorry for telling your age to the world, sis, but yeah. So it's like
you're the baby
between us, roughly. I am the baby.
Okay, I got it. So do you think the relationship a person has with their mother affects their relationship with others?
Oh, absolutely. I believe the relationship a kid has with either parent, even if it's an absent parent, affects the relationship. Because, like, for me, and I've only learned this through, like, going through therapy and stuff, just really sitting down and, sometimes you got to be real with yourself.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of the guys that I have chosen to date throughout my lifetime, kind of remind me of the guys she dated or were married to when I was a kid. And so, nobody ever really wants to admit that, stereotype, but it's true, because it kind of, you see what she doing, you're like, okay, so this is okay, this is acceptable, and that's kind of what you grow to deal with. So absolutely, it also has a lot to do with, I think, for girls and their moms, like how you grow up with your identity, like how you speak to yourself, how you dress yourself, what kind of taste you have, in certain things. Like, my girls are super, super girly, and I swear they belong to my sister, because I'm a tomboy through and through. I'm a cute tomboy, but I'm a tomboy through and through. But they like, ballerinas and tulle and pink and glitter. It's the complete opposite. But I let them embrace it, and I embrace it as well, because I don't want them to feel like, because I don't like it, that they shouldn't.
Yeah. Okay. So I love the fact, because me and you talked about this a little bit before even recording this podcast, but I love the fact how once you and your mom had a strained relationship, but now you guys have restored and rebuilt their relationship, and it's even better now, which I think is beautiful. And I really hope, especially as we get ready to celebrate and honor, Mother's Day, that's my desire for all of those who are listening, especially those who have strained and broken relationships with their mothers, because I know that very well, because I myself have had strained broken relationship with my mom for various
Mm-hmm.
reasons. And it's just a hard place to be in, because that's the one person that's your first love. When it comes to your mom
Right.
and your dad, those are your first loves. And when those relationships are broken, it cuts deep. It really cuts deep. So my desire is that people are able to mend and fix those relationships with their moms and moms with their children. That is my heart's desire. And that was the reason of me doing this Mother's Day series. So I think it is so beautiful that you and your mom have restored your relationship. So what steps can one take to rebuild or restore a broken relationship with their mom? What do you think?
For my situation, it was honestly just sitting down and finally having a real conversation. The conversation started as an argument.
Yeah.
About me disciplining one of the kids, and it just progressed loudly from there. And we didn't talk for like 6 months.
Yeah.
Like no contact. We have a group chat that my mom, my sister, and I are in, and I would text my sister separate because we have nothing to discuss. And she even took my mom's side for the longest time, which didn't bother me. That's something that I'm used to. But for my mom and I, it was just having an honest conversation. And I just told her, she told me her perspective. She was like, she feels like I don't really like her, and I just don't think that she thinks I can do anything right. And like I told her, you have to look at it from my perspective as well, because you are judgmental. You'll come to the house and be like, oh, well, why is this toy over here? Or why is this over here? Or who's doing this? Or why are you cooking that? Or why are you yelling? It was always for you to nitpick it. But I'm an adult. This is my house. I pay these bills. I sustain my children and their lifestyle. I appreciate your input. However, this is not your home. If you would like for your home to run that way, then you need to go to your home where you live.
Yeah.
And she finally just sat me down and was like, in her head, to her, I was still kind of like the baby.
Mm-hmm.
So she was just kind of like being overprotective. She thinks because she didn't want anything, bad to happen or anything to transpire in my life like it had transpired in hers. And like I told her, I get it because, everything that occurred from the suicide attempt to the drug rehab to the bad marriages to the abusive relationships, I was there for all of that. So I guess she felt like it. To her, she felt like by being overbearing, I'm protecting you from making mistakes that I did.
Yeah.
But for me, it was like pushing me further away. I've seen the mistakes you've made. I've seen the progress you've made. I'm proud of the progress you've made. But I'm my own person, and you're trying to put me in this little box, and that's not what I am. And then people have to also be open to hearing other people's perspectives if you're going to have a conversation to replenish any kind of situation or relationship, because you can't tell me what my experience of you is, because you aren't experiencing what you're doing to me.
Girl.
Just like I can tell you what your experience of me is, because I'm not experiencing what I'm doing to you. I'm doing it to you. You know what I mean? You feel how you feel because of X, Y, and Z. And I feel how I feel because of X, Y, and Z. And although we can agree to disagree, I can't invalidate your feelings because you don't agree, just like you can't invalidate mine.
Girl, I could put that on a t-shirt. That was so doggone
Put it on
good.
one day and I'll go back.
I could put that on a t-shirt. Like, this is such practical and great advice. So what I heard from you, we need to have a open and honest conversation, a real conversation. And we need to be able to listen to one another's perspective and be able to validate how the other one feels.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, girl, That's real. That is real. A issue my mom and I have had. We have gotten a lot better is the being able to listen to one another's perspective and to validate the other's feelings, because it's like if you tell somebody how you experience them, it's so easy to become defensive and feel like you got to defend yourself. But you can literally just listen. It's not an attack on your character. You can literally just listen to, you know what, you may be right. That may be how you experience me, and I'm sorry. Like, we can literally just apologize and be able to move forward. But as long, and I'm not just talking about my mom and I'm talking about all of our relationships, all of you guys who are listening. If we could just take accountability and apologize for how we made the other person feel, we could move forward in so many of our relationships. And it's not even just with mothers. I know we're talking about this for the Mother's Day series, but you guys know this is a relationship podcast. So in our romantic relationships, in our marriages, if we could just take accountability for our actions, how we may have made somebody else feel, because we don't know. We don't know how we made somebody else feel. We could just validate their feelings and we could be able to move forward. But as long as we're going to continue to defend ourselves, I didn't make you feel like that. I didn't do that. Well, hold on. Because I do feel this way.
Exactly. It didn't come out of nowhere. So it came from something. And I think a lot of people feel like, and this, I'm guilty of this as well, especially in my relationship. You explaining to me why you did what you did, it used to like piss me off, because I used to be like, okay, well, you could have easily made that a conversation and then it wouldn't have, occurred. But I also know that people are human, and in the moment, nobody's like, well, let me make this a conversation. Is I'm mad, and this is the consequence that I'm dealing with from whatever action I took while I was upset.
Yeah, that's real. That's real. Woo. This is good, girl. Alexis, I appreciate you. Okay, so
I appreciate you for having me.
This is my last question, and this is a two-part question. Okay, so usually when I do the interviews, I end with you guys giving advice to my audience. This is a two-part question. What advice or encouragement would you offer to the child that does not have a good relationship with their mom as Mother's Day approaches? Because I know for some of you guys listening, as well as myself, it's much better now, but for a long time, because me and my mom were estranged for a while, where we weren't even talking at one point. But Mother's Day would roll around, and I would literally sometimes be in my car, literally boo-hooing. Like, this was just, people are heartbroken around Mother's Day for various reasons. Some people have lost their moms. Their moms are no longer in this world. So people are heartbroken for various reasons, but we never talk about the people who have broken relationships with their mom. Like, their moms are still here, but they don't talk to their moms for whatever reason. Something happened. There's so many things that can happen, why the relationship is estranged or broken or non-existent. But we don't really talk about that for Mother's Day. So what advice or what encouragement would you offer to the child that doesn't have a good relationship with their mom? And we're getting ready to celebrate Mother's Day, and this is really a hard holiday for them.
The first piece of advice I would probably give is to learn or try to train yourself not to take things so personal, because people are how they are, whether it's through their own childhood experiences, their own, family relationships, their own trauma, character flaw, whatever you want to call it. People are how they are, behave how they are, and do what they do. And that has no personal bearing or accountability towards you. Like, how they are, what they do, how they treat people, whatever, that has absolutely nothing to do with you. So you first have to separate that, and you'll stop getting so upset and taking stuff so personal. Because if my mom is a butt and I know she's a but, and she's always been a but, and it's because of whatever has occurred to her that's turned her into that person. There's nothing that I can say, do, no way I can maneuver around her, walk on eggshells, agree to everything, whatever, that's going to make her not be who she is. That's a personal vendetta that she has to deal with on her own. Secondly, just taking accountability for what you can say you've done wrong in this situation. I know some of my friends are estranged from family members because, ungodly things have occurred in their household, or estranged just because they don't see eye to eye, or, they don't talk just because they don't really just get along that well. But if you focus on the healing part of you, like your half of that burden, all you can do is what's going to fix you. You can't fix another person, parent or not, by pouring more into them when they aren't where they need to be to either be accepting of that, or if they're not in a position and ready to heal from that. So if you and your mom don't get along because as a kid, she used to lock you in a closet. Let's say, well, Lord forbid, but used to lock you in a closet. And now as an adult, you still feel some kind of way. If you've done your own work and your own healing for you, and not for told you I was going to be okay, like a karma type thing in your face kind of thing, but you've really done your healing for you, you can have the relationship you would prefer to have with your parent for yourself. So if my mom and I weren't speaking, it's Mother's Day, I'm still going to send you flowers, still going to send you a gift. I'm still going to tell you Happy Mother's Day, because at the end of the day, you carried me for 9 months. I do have some form of respect to you, for you for giving me life. And I've done my own healing with my own demons from my experience of you to where I can be healthy on my end. It's up to you whether or not you received it.
Ooh, okay. So the second part to this question, what advice would you offer to the mom who misses their child, but they don't know where to start on reconciliation? Like they want to reach out, they want to build a relationship, but they don't even know where to begin.
Every conversation I've ever had, I always start with a hello. And, if it's going to be a hello and wait for a response, you never get one, cool. If it's going to be a hello attached with a 4-page, text message explaining your viewpoint and feelings, or apologizing for whatever you feel like you need to apologize for, or even offering some kind of olive branch, so be it. But you won't really know if there can be any reconciliation if you aren't willing to at least attempt it. And you can't force it either. Like you can't be like, oh, well, I said, hey, and you just say nothing back. Or, oh, I reached out and I told you why I did what I did and why I said what I said, or X, Y, and Z. It's not about that. It's just about starting, somewhere.
Yeah.
Because like with my mom, she was really big on, well, when I'm explaining to her what's wrong, in some way, shape, or form, she would try to like loop herself in, and it would make me shut down, because I get why you're feeling what you're feeling, but that's not what this conversation is about right now. This is about how I feel. Yeah. And so as long as extend some kind of olive branch and be receptive to whether they're getting a positive response, a negative response, or no response at all, you won't really know anything until you actually attempt to do it. Because sitting there quiet, not saying anything, angry at the world or at that person, all that does is, carry space in your energy, in your heart, in your mind, rent free. So you just gotta be, reach out, give an olive branch, cook a meal. A lot of stuff can be settled over a nice glass of wine and a steak. You know what I mean? It's just everything works differently for everyone, but no conversation can be started if nobody is willing to at least say something, even if it's not about the topic at hand, just something. Hey, I'm having dinner at the house. If you want to come by and grab a plate, you ain't even got to tell them to stay. If you want to come by and grab a plate, it'd be nice or to see you, or we got you on put up. Just, baby steps, because even baby steps is progress. It might be slow progress, but slow progress is still progress.
Yes, it is. Alexis, girl, this conversation has been so good to me. Thank you so much. For real. Like, even though I am the host, I feel like I was just sitting on your couch listening to you. Like, that's how I feel. Like, I was just sitting on your couch with my glass of wine, having girl talk about moms in relationships. Seriously, that's how this felt. So thank you so much.
I got 4 bottles of wine and shit. So if you ever decide, I am game for it.
I may take you up on that, real talk. But thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking out your time and coming to have this very sensitive conversation with me on today. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, and I appreciate you having me. It's always an honor to sit down and listen to your wisdom. So I appreciate it. I really do.
So Alexis, let my audience know how they can find you on social media, your website, and find all things Alexis.
So my social media is Almo, AL-MO, just my first and middle name combined. Thomas. Usually don't text messages and stuff like that, so I won't even tell that story. But a quicker way would be through my business page on Instagram, the website, or the Facebook page, which is Foreign Company, the number 4, the word and of course the word company.com, or you can go Instagram or the Facebook page, or worst case scenario, if they want to reach out to you and you pass it along, I'm okay with that too. Whatever, whatever works for everybody.
And all of her links to her website and her social media platforms will be in the show notes, so you guys will have her information there as well. Alexis, again, thank you so much. I have enjoyed you thoroughly. Like, you don't even know, you have fed my soul today. Seriously, real talk.
Well,
I needed this.
Girl. When you get this next relationship podcast up, let me know, because I'm ready.
Oh yeah. To my audience, thank you guys so much for joining us on today. I hope you guys have enjoyed this as much as I have. Remember, I love you, but God loves you so much more. And we'll see you next week. Bye, guys.
Bye.
I hope you guys have enjoyed. Follow me on Facebook at Demo with Mo. If you have any questions you would like answered here live on my podcast, email them to me at demowithmo@gmail.com. That's DEMOWITHMO@gmail.com.